Hello, Matthew Bell with insuranceprescription.com, and today I want to talk about how to try to survive a financial crisis. So a lot of people right now are out of work or they've had to take reduced paychecks and they are facing some tough financial times. The unemployment rate now is spiking. There are millions of people filing for unemployment. CNBC recently posted an article where they said that the number of people filing for unemployment had gone up over 3 million. And this is not even a true picture, according to some commentators, of what the actual state of affairs is. And the reason for that is some people who lost their jobs are simply ineligible to file for unemployment or may not have gotten around to doing so. So I'm just going to take this and just give some very general tips. I'm not an expert in this, but some of these tips might just help spark your imagination or your thinking and possibly become some food for Google searches or for other things that might help you. But for the time being, I'm going to just talk about there's really three categories of person. The first kind of person is going to be a person who thinks that they're fine in this situation. And if that's you, that's fantastic. And I'm sure you can help other people to think through some of these issues. Then there are people who know that they're not fine. Maybe you lost your job and you literally had your income just completely turned off. You may not have an adequate emergency fund. Most Americans don't. And then there are going to be people who are in the middle and they're not sure. It could go either way depending on how long this downturn lasts. So I'm really going to be speaking to these two categories. So first, the category of people who are not fine. Obviously, unemployment is a huge problem. The very first step that you'd want to take would be to try to file for unemployment benefits. Now, this is going to depend on the state as the states administer these programs. And so the very first thing that I would encourage you to do is literally, if you just type in, how do I file for unemployment? Google is pretty smart. And usually Google searches are going to be indexed to your location, which, unless you've got some super security settings on your browser, Google probably is aware of where in the world you are generally. And so when you type in, how do I file for unemployment benefits, I think you'll find Google is going to understand where you are and give you an answer that's state specific. Now, the state rules vary, and your unemployment eligibility is going to depend on the kind of job you had, how long you had it, what amount of salary or income you earned from it, and those kinds of things. In many cases, employees had to have a W-2 in order to be eligible for unemployment, but when in doubt, just file for it. Let them tell you no, rather than assuming that you're ineligible and simply not even trying to go through that process. You can also check with your state's unemployment office, but I don't know the state of those currently. Is presumably a lot of them are going to be closed, so an internet search is probably going to be the very first thing that you'd want to try in that regard. Now, the second thing, and this is obvious, but it's going to be to cut spending, to freeze your spending habits, however you want to say it. And the first things that you're going to want to cut are going to be those things that are extraneous, that you don't necessarily require. So the first thing is going to be things like your Amazon Prime membership, fast food, your Netflix subscription. If you have a gym membership or you subscribe to meal delivery services, these kinds of things are going to be the first things that you would probably want to cut. You're also going to want to communicate with utility companies, with credit card companies and things like this, and explain the situation and see what options are available to you. In some cases, they can put you on extended payback plans. And one of the important things to remember here is just not paying certain bills can lead to a very vicious kind of a cycle. Not paying certain bills can rack up fees and late charges. It can reduce your credit score. To use one credit card to pay another is going to cause a cascade of credit that can end up with, you'll end up maxing out a number of different cards. Going to payday lenders, if any are even still around now, is also a less than ideal option because of the interest rates that they typically charge. So it's a tough situation, but if you just don't ghost the lenders, I think you'll find that some are willing to negotiate and some are willing to put you on extended payment plans or even possibly put you into what in the student loan industry is referred to as a forbearance period. And so just at least make the phone calls and explore your options. Another thing is keep track of the current state of legislation. There are relief checks that are supposed to be on their way. The long-term impact of these relief checks on the economy is likely to be not good, since we are already facing a $23 trillion debt prior to this $2 trillion relief package. And it's not like the government has got gold bars sort of stashed underneath of the Treasury. And so this is likely to simply add to the debt, but from the standpoint of immediate relief, if you do get a relief check, try and budget how you're going to use that and put it to the best use possible. It's tempting to just sort of go to the grocery store and half of it is gone in a month. If there are ways that you can figure on how to stretch those dollars, that would be a valuable process to actually think through. And so as a segue, I'm going to talk to the people who are somewhat in the middle. In the middle, the very first word is kind of a dirty word, but it's budget, it's planning. It's not something that's fun to sit down and do, but it's really, really important to try to get a handle on what your income and expenses are. Even for people in the middle, you're going to want to look at ways that you can cut spending. Now, you may not have to completely drop certain services the way you might have to if you're literally faced with the situation where your income got turned off, but it still may be a good idea to evaluate your actual need for certain services like meal delivery, Netflix and that kind of thing. You'd have to evaluate on a person-by-person basis. For some people, they consider entertainment to be an essential part of their life, and for other people, they think, what, I'll go to the library and I'll rent a DVD or I'll loan a DVD out. But in this environment where everything is shut down, I get it, the options are few and far between. But in your budgeting, you're going to want to try to conceive of various circumstances, one in which the budget is tight, one in which the budget is really tight, and then one in which the budget is really, really tight. So try to get a fix on what expenses you might have to drop if your situation does not improve in the coming months. And that's one thing to try and keep a handle on as well. So you might think, all right, right now I'm fine, and I'll go ahead and keep my Netflix subscription or my Amazon Prime subscription because it's helping me to get maybe groceries faster or different items that I can't pick up at the local store. But if you think, okay, in a month from now, if things haven't improved, those are the things that I'm going to drop. So have a list of things in advance so that you know exactly the moves that you need to make if the time comes to have to make those moves. When you're shopping, just look for budget items, look for deals, off brands, maybe even go back to trying to use coupons. A lot of stores are going to be struggling to try and get people even through the doors right now. And so in that regard, you might find some deals that come up. I saw one article that put it this way: try and put your food budget on a diet, which I thought was somewhat humorous, but buying in bulk can save you as well. Now obviously if the income is tight, then buying in bulk is a double-edged sword, because buying in bulk only works if you have the money to buy in bulk. But if you do have the money to buy in bulk, it will save you in terms of cost per item. Another thing would be look for better rates on various subscription services. So maybe you don't drop Netflix altogether in the sense of you don't drop video entertainment, but maybe you move to Hulu or some other service that offers you a better rate and maybe gives you a slightly different mix of resources. Shop around for cable bills, for cell phone bills, for insurance, whether that's car insurance, home insurance, life insurance. Right now, as bad as you are struggling, there are other businesses that are struggling as well. So many insurance agents, many cell phone companies, the people who actually work are cut off from their normal sources of income or their normal ability to meet with people in order to generate income. And so in that regard, having a phone conversation with, let's say, an insurance agent right now could be very helpful for both of the two of you. Think about things that come out of your check automatically. So these could be auto pays, things like your bills, obviously, other kinds of electronic fund transfers or EFTs. They could be things like your 401k contribution, or if you contribute to other retirement plans. Anything that recurs, just give it a look, because you may not have considered how that money comes out. You may not have looked at it in quite some time. Another thing is your tax withholdings. So obviously, we're in what was tax season until it got extended. But in terms of your tax refund, if you generally get a large tax refund at the end of the year, that indicates that your withholdings are set in such a way that the government is taking out more money through the year than it needs to take out based on your tax situation, based on the way that the code is written. And so certain tax preparers can help advise you in terms of how to change your withholdings so that you can put more money in your pocket through the year. That has the downside in some people's minds that they don't get the refund check. On the other hand, people who advise doing it this way say, if you get a big refund check, you've just given the government a zero interest loan for the entire year and you're better off keeping your money. But it really depends on how good you are at using the money. But if you can change your withholdings to give yourself a few extra bucks as these checks come in. So if you get your refund check and then you can change your withholdings to try and give yourself a little bit more money with each paycheck going forward in the next few months, it could be helpful. So consult a tax preparer. I'm not a tax preparer. I can't give tax advice. Nothing in this video is designed to give you specific advice. This is simply ideas, so I'm giving you kind of general information, and you can consider this video to simply be informative or even for entertainment purposes only. Now, if you have the time to go through it, this could be also a good time to refinance. You could refinance certain loans. You can look at getting a better rate on even a vehicle loan. You could look at getting better rate on your mortgage payment, because the one benefit of having an interest rate environment so low, and there's not a whole lot of benefits in terms of how your money accumulates, but one of the benefits is that you can get loans for a considerable discount over what they were in just a few months ago or a few years ago. So you could look at refinancing. Whether that's going to work for you it's a complex thing. It takes a long time to actually go through the paperwork for that, and depending on where you are in your mortgage payment history, it's going to depend on whether this would be a good idea, but it might be something to at least look at. Final thing I'll say is just look at setting up a side gig. Maybe you're going to try and set something up through selling on Amazon or selling on items on eBay, setting up an Etsy store, starting a blog, starting a website. There are a number of different ideas, and right now, if you are worried about your current employment situation, it might be an ideal opportunity, or it might be the spark that you needed to prompt you to try out one of these alternative avenues. I hope something that I said was of interest to you. I wish you all the best. I thank you for joining me today. If you did find something of value in the video, I ask that you just click the like button, that you subscribe to the channel. If you want additional content, click the notification bell, and that will alert you to new content even as it becomes available immediately. And I look forward to seeing you again in another video, and I also look forward to happier times. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.